It begins quietly, not with a storm, not with a dramatic change. Just a thin layer of frost, resting gently on the ground like a soft whisper. In a small village, long before electricity, before heaters and warm glowing screens, morning arrives slowly. The sky is pale blue, almost gray. The sun is there, somewhere, but it does not feel strong anymore. A man steps outside his cottage. He pulls his rough wool cloak tighter around his shoulders. The air bites at his skin. Not painfully. Not yet. Just enough to make him pause. He looks down. The grass is covered in frost. Each blade stiff and white. Even the dirt paths look different now. Harder, colder, less forgiving. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. Winter is coming. Inside the cottage, a small fire is still alive from the night before. It crackles softly, like it's half asleep. A woman leans close to it, holding her hands out. She knows this feeling. That small chill in the air that slips through the walls no matter how tightly they are built. She glances at the door. She knows too. This is how it always starts. Not loud. Not fast. Just a quiet warning. For people living centuries ago, winter was not just a season. It was something they had to face carefully, respectfully. Almost like a slow-moving challenge that could not be rushed or ignored. There were no weather apps. No forecasts. No one saying, next week will be colder. They watched the world instead. The frost. The shorter days. The way the wind felt sharper each morning. Even the animals behaved differently. Chickens stayed closer to their shelter. Cows moved slower. Birds, well, many of them simply disappeared. Honestly, if birds packed their bags and left town, that was probably a good sign you should take things seriously. Back in the village, people begin to move a little quicker than usual. Nothing rushed. Just more focused. A young boy carries a bundle of sticks toward his home. They are not big, not impressive, but they matter. Every piece of wood matters now. His hands are cold already. He blows on them like that might help. It doesn't really, but people have been doing that for centuries, so he continues the tradition. Nearby, an older man checks the sky. Not because something exciting is happening, but because the sky tells a story. Gray clouds, low and heavy. More cold is coming. The first frost changes how everything feels. The ground hardens. The air sharpens. The village grows quieter. Even sounds behave differently. Footsteps feel louder. Doors creak more. The wind seems to whisper instead of blow. And at night, it becomes even more noticeable. When the sun sets, darkness comes faster than it did just a few weeks ago. Inside the cottages, people gather near the fire. Not for fun. Not really. But because it is the warmest place. The safest place. The fire becomes the center of everything. Cooking. Talking. Sitting. Thinking. Even just staring into it. There is something calming about fire. The way it moves. The way it glows. The way it makes you forget, just for a moment, how cold it is outside. A child sits close, maybe a little too close. An adult gently pulls them back. Not that close, they might say. Because warmth is good. But too much, well, that's another problem. Outside, the frost thickens as the night grows deeper. Roofs turn white. Fences turn white. Even the trees look like they've been dusted with something soft and cold. It is beautiful. But it is also a warning, because this is just the beginning. People in the village understand something very important. Winter does not arrive all at once. It creeps in, a little colder each day, a little darker each night, like a slow story that everyone already knows the ending to. And that ending is not always easy. Inside one cottage, a family shares a simple meal. Bread, maybe a bit of preserved food from earlier in the year. Nothing fancy, nothing exciting, but it is warm, and that matters. They eat slowly, not because they are trying to enjoy every bite, though maybe they are, but also because they know something. Food must last. Winter is long, very long. There is a kind of quiet thinking that happens during this time. No one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. Do we have enough? Enough food, enough wood, enough strength. Because winter is not just about staying warm for one night. It is about surviving many nights. One after another. The wind picks up outside. Not strong. Just steady. It brushes against the walls of the cottage, finding small gaps, slipping inside where it can. The fire flickers in response. Almost like it knows it has work to do. Somewhere in the village, a dog curls into itself, nose tucked under its tail. Even animals understand how to stay warm. Honestly, they might be better at it than humans. No overthinking. Just curl up and stay alive. Simple plan. As the night goes on, people begin to settle. Not into deep comfort, but into something close enough. Wrapped in blankets. Layers of rough fabric. Maybe a shared warmth between family members. Because back then, personal space was not always a luxury. Warmth was more important. The frost remains. Silent. Still. Patient. Waiting for morning. When the sun rises again, it will not melt everything away. Not anymore. That time is passing. Each day now brings the village closer to something bigger. Something colder. Something that will test every person, every home, every small of food and fuel they have. But for now, this is just the first frost. The first quiet sign. The beginning of a long winter story that people have lived through again and again for generations. And as the fire slowly fades into glowing embers and the village rests in the cold silence of the night, one thing is certain. They are ready. Or at least, they hope it. Why are? The first frost was only a warning. The real work had already begun long before it appeared. Because winter, for people living centuries ago, was not something you prepared for at the last minute. You didn't wake up one cold morning and think, oh, I should probably get ready now. By then, it was already too late. Preparation started in the warmth of late summer and stretched quietly into autumn. Months earlier, the same village looked very different. The air was warm. The ground was soft. The fields were alive with movement. People were everywhere. Not rushing, but definitely not relaxing either. This was the time to gather, to store, to think ahead. Because every grain, every root, every bundle of herbs would matter later. In the fields, farmers bent low over rows of crops. Wheat swayed gently in the breeze. Barley stood tall. Vegetables filled the earth. Carrots, turnips, onions, things that could survive being pulled from the soil and stored for months. A woman pulls a carrot from the ground. She brushes off the dirt, looks at it for a moment, then places it into a basket. It's not just a carrot. It's part of winter. Nearby, a man cuts bundles of grain with steady, practiced movements. He's done this many times before, probably every year of his life. The rhythm is almost calming. Cut, gather, cut, repeat. But there's a quiet urgency underneath it, because the harvest window is not endless. Weather can change. Rain can ruin crops. A few bad days can mean less food later. And less food later is not something anyone wants to think about too much. Children help where they can. They carry small baskets, pick fallen vegetables, gather sticks. They might not fully understand the importance of all this work, but they understand one thing. When adults are this focused, it means something serious is coming. Also, let's be honest, if they don't help, they will probably be told to help anyway. So it's better to just pick up the carrots and move on. Back in the village, the work continues. Long tables are set outside cottages, covered in herbs, fruits, and strips of meat. This is where food begins its slow transformation into something that can survive winter. Fresh food is good, but preserved food is life. A woman carefully ties bundles of herbs together. She hangs them upside down near a wall where the sun still reaches. Day by day, the herbs dry out. Their smell becomes stronger, sharper. These herbs will later be used in cooking, in medicine, sometimes just to make simple food taste a little less simple. Because eating the same things every day for months can get a bit boring. Even in the past, people appreciated a little flavor. Nearby, strips of meat are laid out to dry. Some are hung over wooden frames. Others are smoked slowly over low fires. The smell fills the air. Not unpleasant, just strong. This process takes time. Tension. Too much moisture and the meat spoils. Too little care, and all that effort is wasted. No pressure, of course. Inside another cottage, sacks of grain are being filled. Wheat, barley, oats. Each grain is small, easy to ignore on its own. But together, they mean survival. The sacks are heavy, carefully tied, then moved to storage. Not just anywhere. Safe places. Dry places. Places where mice, hopefully, cannot reach. Though mice have always been quite confident in their abilities, there is a quiet kind of thinking that happens during this time. People count, not with numbers written down, but in their heads. How much grain? How many vegetables? How much meat? Will it be enough? It's a question that never fully goes away. Firewood is gathered too. This part is just as important as food, because without fire, nothing else works. No warmth, no cooking, no comfort, just cold. Men and women head into nearby forests. They cut branches, chop logs, carry them back in heavy bundles. It's hard work, slow work, the kind of work that makes your arms ache, but also makes you feel a little more prepared. Each piece of wood stacked outside a home is like a quiet promise. We might be okay. The wood is stacked carefully, not thrown into a pile. Stacked in neat rows so it stays dry. Because wet wood is almost useless. It smokes. It struggles. It refuses to burn properly. And in winter, that's the last thing anyone needs. As autumn deepens, the air begins to change. Not cold yet, but cooler. Leaves turn golden, then brown. They fall slowly to the ground, covering paths and fields. It's beautiful, but also a reminder. Time is moving. Back in the village, the pace doesn't stop. If anything, it becomes more focused. People wake early, work until the light fades. There is no wasted daylight, because daylight itself is becoming shorter. Food storage areas begin to fill. Root cellars are prepared. Underground spaces where vegetables can be kept cool, but not frozen. Carrots, turnips, potatoes, layered carefully. Covered with soil, straw, or cloth. Protected. Hidden away like quiet treasures. There is something almost comforting about a full storage space. Seeing shelves lined with food. Knowing that effort has turned into something real. Something that can be used later. But even then, no one fully relaxes. Because winter is unpredictable. Some years are mild, others are not. And no one knows which kind is coming. As the final days of autumn arrive, the village begins to feel different again. Quieter. Not empty, just settled. The big work is mostly done. Now comes the waiting. And then, one morning, the frost appears, just like we saw before. But this time, it feels different. Because now, everything that could be done has been done. The food is stored. The wood is stacked. The homes are prepared. There is nothing left to gather. Only something to face. Inside their cottages, people sit near their fires once again. But now, there is a small difference. A quiet sense of readiness. Not confidence. Not comfort. But readiness. Because winter is no longer a distant idea. It has arrived at the door. And as the cold slowly begins to settle in, one thought sits quietly in the back of every mind. We did what we could.